Okay, looks like we're back for another clinic. There's his speed at the bottom of the helix. Our next presenter, of course, an Eagle Scout, Lone Star Region Division 1 Director, and Chairman of the 2023 National Convention to be held right here in Dallas-Fort Worth. Please welcome MMR 573, Mr. Mikle Mackey.
Hi, Speed. Hello, everyone. It's great to have you guys joining us today. We're going to be talking a little bit about 3D printing from a practical standpoint, and I'm going to give you as much information as I can here. Recently did a clinic for some folks over in the Southeast region in Birmingham, Alabama, and whenever I did, I was able to do a 4-hour clinic for them. So we're going to cram a bunch of things into the next 40 minutes, but we're hopefully going to try to make this as simple as possible. I want to show you a 3D printer. This is a 3D printer that actually, I'm going to hit change cameras here if I can. And let's see here if I can get back over here and switch cameras. Nope, it's not going to let me do that. All right, we'll do it a different way. We're going to do it like this right here. This right here is a poly printer 3D camera. It's reversed here on my screen, but I'm sure it's right on yours. This 3D printer is one for the company that I happen to represent and work for. I'm in charge of sales and marketing for them, but I'm not going to be trying to sell you one of these printers today. I'm just going to be talking about the functionality of the printer and how you can do certain things with the printer. All of the items that you see right here on the desk right here in front of you were 3D printed. The story that I'm going to share with you is the fact that I fell in love with a military train at an ops group up in Tulsa. A guy by the name of Jim Sinclair has a military train on his layout in Tulsa, and I fell in love with that train. I decided I wanted to have a military train, and if you can find the Roco or the Keebri military vehicles that were printed and made and injection molded from years and years ago, if you can find them at a swap show, you're looking at probably $35 to $50 each, meaning that if you've got a 50-foot flat car, you just spent $150 on a load if you put 3 items on that particular flat car. So that being said, I decided I was going to try to come up with a better solution. Let me put this like this, and now I'll have it there, and it won't be as difficult to see, and you can be able to see it a lot better. That's in focus. Looks pretty good there. Now, I decided I was going to go out and through a friend of mine, he was working at a makerspace, and he goes, "Why don't you 3D print some things?" So I said, "Okay, let's try to do that." I did that, and whenever I did, I fell in love with 3D printing. With 3D printing, you can do a lot of things. This particular vehicle right here was 3D printed. I did not draw this, and I will show you in just a minute how you can come up with this. This particular bulldozer right here is 3D printed. This is the same bulldozer in a different scale. So one is HO, one is in scale. These Jeeps and tanks are also 3D printed. And you can do a lot of different things here, guys, and girls for that matter, because I know we've got some ladies joining us today. These particular pieces right here, this particular tank that you're looking at right here, this tank was printed in 3 parts. The main part, the tracks right here, and you can see they were glued together on either side, and then the turret. And so now whenever I insert this back in here, the turret actually turns. I painted them with rattle can green paint. Actually, it's a forest green from Krylon in their camouflage series, and then did the decaling and put everything on there and came out with a pretty nice little tank right there. This is a different model tank right here. And you can see it's the same environment with the hull, the main hull of the tank, the tracks, and the turret right there. I will tell you that when I started looking at this from an economic standpoint, I can buy these vehicles and spend the money and just have the vehicle. Or if I decided that I was going to have to pay $35 or $50 this tank, let's just say $50 for a tank right here, then I'm going to be looking at $150 for a load. If I spent that same money and invested in a 3D printer, now I have got the $3,000 in a 20-car military train. But if I spent that same $3,000 on a printer, now I can print so many other things, such as, let's see here. Here is a bumper for the end of the track. Here is an entire building that was done. Again, guys, this is ABS plastic right here. All of this is plastic. Now, it looks like wood if you start and trying to look at it. But that's just the painting and weathering. The pallets on the side, the crates, the shading and the exterior shed on the back that looks like it's got sheet metal on the top of it. That was 3D printed. The barrels on the side right here that you see. All of this stuff is 3D printed. When I started looking at it a little bit further, here is a baggage cart that I printed in HO scale. I can then come in here and start looking at other items, and I'm going to bring some very interesting things in here. Here is a bag, a piece of luggage. I've got all different kinds of luggage pieces right here in HO scale. I've even got cinder blocks. I'm going to put this down here so you can really get in here and take a look at it. But this is a cinder block that was actually made on the 3D printer with the holes intact. And it came off the printer just like you see it right there. A bathtub in HO scale with the, on the very front of it right here. It's kind of difficult to see. But if I bring it up here to the camera, let's see here. It's a little bit out of focus. But the faucet and plumbing areas on the bathtub are even there on the printed item. Here's a pot-bellied stove. Here is a crate and barrel. My layout in my train room, which I'm broadcasting from right now, is a 39 by 19 layout in HON3 and HO. Believe me, it swallows detail parts like a black hole in space. This is a grandfather clock, and if you really get in here and look at it tightly, if you were to get a magnifying glass and start looking at it, you can see what time it is on the face. You can see the pendulum and the weights inside the grandfather clock. The funny thing is, I have had my 3D printer for, let's see, about 20 months now. And in 20 months, I have drawn 3 things for printing. All of the things you see here in front of you, this loading dock, complete with the underframe and everything like that. And I want to show you several different things. If I can get this, get Werribee to work with me here. There we go. And my screen share. Well, we're going to go over here and minimize that. I'm sorry, guys. We're still learning this thing here on the screen share. And I'm going to stop that and then go back in here and share it one more time. Select what I want. I'm going to do screen 1. There we go. And allow it. There. That's what I wanted you to see. Now, I'm going to come in here and, well, it's not going to let that happen either. I apologize so much. Let's try it again. I'll get the right one here in a second. In sharing this screen here, I want to show you that there's a lot of different places that you can go in and find many things. Write these URLs down. First off is Thingiverse. 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 And with Thingiverse, I'm going to come in here and there we go. I'm going to get this right and let you guys see this. And now we're going to come back over here and share the screen. Well, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties, guys. I'm sorry right here.
Just print it.
Yeah, really. I'm trying to launch my camera, but for some reason it does not want to let me launch the camera here and get back to my main camera. Now, I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Let me, if I can share again. It says it's not, my browser is not liking this. It's not going to let me screen share. I've lost my camera. Speed, I may have to relog into Whereby here.
Okay, we'll wait for you.
Let's see here. Clear the cookies. Remove that. Cycle here, give permissions.
If you guys in the audience have any questions, please type them into the Facebook group chat or in the YouTube chat. I think that's what they call it. We're seeing a tank car.
I remember the tank car. Let's have a look. What did we get?
High page.
Well, Mike just sorts himself out.
Now it looks like I'm back partially. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So let's have a look. What else do people want? I can't scroll back now. So,
chassis system C27 and a C27A caboose.
Whole caboose.
Yep.
I hope that's Z scale. It's going to get expensive. If you get that printed in gold, I want to see it though.
Well, if you think a caboose is hard, how about a 484 Reading T1?
Wow. Yeah, what scale? That sounds awesome. That sounds really cool.
Not specified. How about a boxcar door?
I think that's a cool thing. I think that's a really cool use for 3D printing. I think if you're upgrading some older models and you want it to be very specific.
Guys, I'm sorry here. I'm not, if for whatever reason, it's not liking my camera all of a sudden. Bear with me a second, guys.
We're good.
Yeah, I think we're looking at Mike again. I think that I think 3D printing for detail parts is the way to go, especially as more and more of the detail parts we maybe used to get in pewter or in metals are no longer available. I think it's really cool. 1-to-1 scale. Bernard wants to do 1-to-1 scale.
Can you guys see me now?
We can see
We
you.
can see your chin.
All right. So we're going to turn around here and look at the camera right here and look at this as best we can. Now, I want to show you guys here on Thingiverse. Is that being broadcast now, Gordy?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Just let me make it a bit bigger because it's really difficult for people to see that.
Is it? Okay. Well, then let's do it a different way. We're going to come back around here and come back around here then.
We can move away a little bit from the screen. That might help.
Hang on just a minute. Let's try that. How's that?
It's probably better, yeah, because we were only seeing like the blue circle, so that's your full screen. Go ahead.
All right. So when you're looking at Thingiverse, there's all kinds of places and things that you can get on Thingiverse right here. If you just simply come in here and type in trains, and you got to spell it right first, Mike, and hit enter, it's going to come in here and do an automatic search for you on all the different things that are train related. Now you can come in here, and right now it's got literally hundreds of things. The end of this, 42 pages of train related things. Okay, I'm going to come back over here and it's going to refresh, and you can see everything from bullet trains to an outhouse to here's a car over here that's got that's a cannon that's all over here, all kinds of things. Here's part of a let's see here. You can see this is a shell for a locomotive, a diesel locomotive. If I wanted to go to a different website, let's go to add this, and I'm going to now go to My Mini Factory. My Mini Factory is another location where you can find hundreds, if not thousands, of different places where you can come in here. I'm going to come in here and type in trains again, or let's type in HO trains. And whenever I do, I'm going to hit search. And now when I'm looking at HO trains right here, I'm seeing houses. I'm seeing there's a bank. Here's track. Here's another HO scale train, a loading dock, all kinds of different things here. My Mini Factory. Another one is, let's do Cults 3D. And when you go to Cults 3D, it's the same procedure. Go in and hit search, and you can search for whatever you're looking for there. So guys, I want to tell you, it's the world is your oyster when it comes to doing 3D printing. Now, I want to show you with this screen over here on a different computer. Let me get this locked in here for you. I'm going to go in here, and one of the things that I'm currently printing and making here is a copy of this building right here. This is the Tyler Depot in Tyler, Texas for the Cotton Belt. Now, this building I went down and took some measurements on it, brought back, had the drawings, and I turned it back over to a friend of mine who actually did the drawing for me, and then turned around and started to print this and in the 3D, on the 3D printer, complete with corbels and everything else. Here are the corbels. Let me hold this up. Here's one of the corbels right here. Here is one of the doors right here. Here is the back of the door for that you can come in, and I'll show you how to do that. This is the back of one of the windows. Here is the front of the window right here. So I'm making this building. It's coming to me, and I'm starting to get it all printed out. And if I can get the lighting a little bit better here so you can see it, it's actually, I've got it painted, and I'm doing all kinds of detail work on it, complete with an interior detail. Now, with the 3D printer, all starts with the STL file, just like John was talking to you about. Now, I'm going to bring up the passenger door right here and open that into a program right here that's called a slicer. Now, the slicer, this particular one is KISS Slicer. You can, there's a lot of different programs that you can use for your slicer programs. But this is, this one in particular is KISS Slicer. And if you look right here in the middle, I'm going to zoom in here. This is the HO scale door right here. Now, if I wanted to make this bigger, if I come over here to the right-hand side, I can come in here and right-click and scale by X. So if I want to make it 2 times larger, okay, so let's say it's in HO scale and I wanted to take it to O scale, I'm simply going to click OK, and now I've got the same door in O scale. If I wanted to right-click and scale it by 1/4, now effectively, whoop, that was, pardon me, I just 4 times the thing. Let me scale by, let's see, 0.5. That takes it down to O scale. And then 0.25 takes it down to N scale. It's very easy to scale a building or a part or whatever all the way down. Now, this particular slicer right here is set for a print bed that I have. It's 229 by 229 by 229 millimeters. If I'm going to take this back to my original size, I can simply come back in here and reload it one more time for that. Let's scroll down to passenger door. And it's reloaded. Now the beauty on this particular one, I'm going to go ahead and double the size of it and make that. And you can see right here on this side, if you can, I don't know if it's visible or not. There we go. You can see the size that we're working with. If I wanted to change the exact size and I wanted to say instead of 0.39 millimeters tall, which is the height off of the bed right here, from the bed up is 0.39 millimeters, and I wanted to make it 0.6 millimeters, I just made it twice as thick. I can come in here and look at this, and with my 3-dimensional tool, I can come over it, under it, around it, and through it, and I can even get underneath it and look underneath it. Now, here's how I made the back side of the doors. One of the things that I can do here on this, I'm going to go back in here and let me change file types. Instead of that door, let's go to, let's see, we'll go pressure tanks. And all right, so there I've got some tanks. I'm going to kill the passenger door. I can, since right now I'm looking at these pressure tanks on the bed. If I want to change the orientation of them, I'm going to right-click on this slicer, transform the mesh, and make the Y-axis up. And now it's changed the orientation of those tanks right there. But here's the thing. Let's say I only wanted to print a portion of the tank. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower my mesh on the Z-axis. And whenever I do, I'm going to take it, let's see, lower it by 11 millimeters. And now if you look at it, right there is halfway on the bed, print bed. If you notice the blue line right here, that is the print bed. And whenever it's right there even, so the red line right here is going halfway through the cylinder. Now I've lowered it halfway. It's only going to print from the bed up. If I want to go back and make it full height, then I'm going to come back in here. And there you go. It's now back up to above the bed. Now, another thing that's really great about a 3D printer is if I only want, I'm going to bring this back down. I'm going to bring it, lower it in mesh by 0. And now it's back on the bed level surface. I want to print more than one of these. So how am I going to do that? Here's my count feature right over here on the side. Okay. And I'm just going to increase that by 1, 2, 3, 4. So that whenever I come back, now you can see that the software has now multiplied that print by 4 times. The next thing I'm going to do is prepare it for the printer. In order to do that, you have to do what's known as slicing it. You notice right up here at the top, it says slice. And what that's actually doing is taking it and making it, doing a, if you will, an MRI of the item being printed. You can see it's going all the way up, and it's taking little bitty slices. Point on this particular slicer for this particular printer, it's making 0.125 or an eighth of a millimeter slices, and then it's stacking those on top of each other. It's making a sandwich, if you will, and it's taking all of those slices and stacking them one on top of the other. Now, once it's done that, we can go ahead and save it. Now, I'm going to come back over here. I've already got a file getting started over here, and I'm going to change over to the actual printer software. Now, the printer software here, if you're looking at it, I can come up here and choose my file, open a file, or click Recent Files. And in this case, I'm going to do a partner desk with a ticket stool. It's loading that up here on the screen. It's going to tell me over here on the side that it looks like it's going to be able to do that in 4.4 minutes and 47 seconds roughly. And I'm going to go ahead and hit print. Now, if you'll look over here on the side, you'll see that the bed is currently at a, and this is set for ABS. That's the type of filament that I'm using on this printer. And if you look at this, you can see in the back, you see the roll of filament. There's different kinds of printers, and I'm going to talk to you about that while this starts printing. But this particular printer filament is brown in color. So we're going to come back over here, and I'm going to hit the print and execute button. So let me do that, and then we're going to let you just sit here, and we're going to talk for just a minute. And I'm going to talk to you about different types of printers while this gets started. All right. So we're going to hit print, and it's going to start printing. A couple of things to think about whenever you purchase your printer. First off, what are you going to be printing? Now, the important thing to understand about 3D printing is, and I like to use this analogy whenever I'm talking to people about their printers, is that use the right printer for the job. You can build a house, and when you build a house, you can use a hammer, a claw hammer, a ball peen hammer, a sledgehammer. You get the idea. But what's the best tool for the job? And when you're looking for a printer, you need to think about those same options. If you're trying to do very, very fine detail in N scale, I will tell you right now, do not choose a filament printer. You need a liquid resin printer. Now, there's pros and cons to all different kinds of printers, just like there's pros and cons to a Ford tractor versus a John Deere tractor. So you need to think about that whenever you're making your purchase. This printer that we're printing on today is a filament printer. It is probably a second tier or a prosumer type printer. Roughly cost, well, the cost on this was $28.95 brand new. You can buy printers as cheap as $300 and put them together yourself. Now, I'll tell you that when you get a print off of them, it looks like something that you printed on a $300 printer. You can get a Yugo or you can get a Ferrari. Maybe most of us need to be somewhere in between. So when you're choosing your printer, make sure you're choosing the right printer for the job. The pros and cons, all right? A liquid resin printer, once you start printing with whatever resin you're using, it's got a very definite shelf life, but they give you great detail. So that's a really good fundamental thing to understand. A filament printer is not quite as good a detail as you would have with a liquid resin printer. However, you saw some of the things that I was giving you as examples here. And if you're printing in larger scales, a filament printer is going to do a real good job for you. Filament printer is normally not as expensive as a liquid resin printer. The filament has an indefinite shelf life, provided that you keep it dry. Now, let's talk about filament for just a minute. You can buy filament that is cheap, foreign filament, coming out of the Far East somewhere, and I can guarantee you that the quality of a roll of filament that you pay $12 to $18 for is not going to be as good as filament that you bought and paid $45 a roll for. It's quality control. It's the quality of the plastic they use whenever they're making the filament in the spool. Another thing you need to look at when you're buying filament is what is the filament that's half kilogram, and they charge just as much, if not more, for a half kilogram as some really, really nice kilogram rolls. So think about that whenever you're buying your filament. Now, you load your filament. There are machines out there that will print in more than one color. How do they do that? They have two heads side by side, and the machine will rotate back and forth. For instance, let me give you an example. This is a Baby Yoda that I printed on one of our machines. We have a machine that is a two-headed printer that's a 325. We also have another two-headed machine that's a 465. And those are the dimensions of the bed. 325 millimeters. The other one's 465 millimeters. And if you're looking to print something, this was all done in one print on the machine. All right. And the different types of filament, for instance, the green on Baby Yoda right here is glow in the dark green. So at night, if after a day being in the sunlight, Baby Yoda is going to glow in the dark for you. You can have filament of different types. For instance, I know our company, and that's the only thing I can speak to at this point, but we have filament that's wood infused. We have fiberglass infused filament. The wood infused filament, when you print that, you can literally come back in, you can stain it, you can sand it, you can carve it. Anything you can do with wood, you can do with that printed filament. Whenever you are looking at, we've got fiberglass infused filament. We've even got carbon fiber infused filament. So if you're looking to print something that needs to have a pretty high tensile strength on it so it doesn't break on you, look at that carbon fiber infused filament. Now, it's not going to be cheap, but if you have an entire kilogram spool, that's huge. And you have the opportunity to have a lot of different options there. If you're really dead level set on having two colors at the same time, and a two-color printer will just print in one color if you tell it to. It's all how you do it in the slicing and how you program that machine. For instance, let's take an example. Think about this. If you've got a machine that is printing in two colors, you can tell it what parts and how far to print in two colors. It's all like, for instance, a Microsoft Word document. Okay, whenever you are programming and typing your letter, all you're doing is entering zeros and ones in binary code, and the software compiles that and sends it to the printer. Okay, that said, that's exactly what your slicer does. It takes all of your information and then turns it around and sends it to the printer in a language that the printer understands. And the slicer then tells the printer, hey, what we're going to do here is we're going to print this level, then this level, then this level, then this level, and stack it one on top of the other and go from there. The final thing I want to tell you about before I open it up for questions and give it back to Speed here is you've got, when you're printing things, there's something that's in here that's called rafting, okay? You see those support pieces in there? You can't print anything in midair. So you have to have some support in there. And what this is literally an N-scale railer that I designed and put in there, and you plant this on the track and just roll your cars down. Now, you can buy those, but I can print as many as I want. And this right here cost me like $1.50 cents to print. So you can print things for pretty inexpensive cost. But you may have to come in there with either a rafting tool to clear it out. You can do that with a knife, a little bit sharper, a little bit more heavy duty than a number 11 blade. This one is a little bit heavier duty blade there. You also, whenever you're doing things, you can come in with a number 11 and do some fine tuning there. So this has been a very compact and focused area here on 3D printing. I could go on, like I said at the start of the clinic, for 4 hours and talk to you about different things on this, but we're certainly not going to try to do that today. Maybe we can do another session on it and we pick up where we left off and go a little bit further. But I urge you to really consider it. I was talking with Speed earlier. Speed, I know, has multiple printers. Speed, how many different printers do you have at your home now? You got 3 different printers, I believe. Is that correct? Hey, Speed.
Speed might have just gone to the bathroom.
Well, he was there just a second ago, Cordy. I think Speed's got 3 different printers. I know he's got a liquid resin printer. I believe he's got a filament printer, and he's actually printing in-scale well cars with the molded on detail. It's amazing there. We were talking the other day about printing. I truly believe this. I do believe that maybe in your children's lifetime,
It's 3.
you've got 3.
Yes.
That's what I thought,
3
Speed.
printers.
Yeah, thanks. I think that in your children's lifetime, you're going to see a situation where
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah,
I believe that in your children's lifetime, every household is going to have a 3D printer. If you need to get a widget for your thingamajig, you call the thingamajig company, you give them their credit card, they will give you access to a file that'll let you print 3 whatchamacallits, and whenever you do that, you simply download it, you print it on your printer, and it's instantaneous. It's going to reduce shipping time, warehousing, handling, and everything, and run the cost way down. It's a whole lot faster. As a prime example of that, the space station that's rotating around the globe has a 3D printer on it, and if they break something, they just have NASA send them a file, and they upload it or download the file and then put it into the printer and print it. So, Speed, do we have any questions that anybody's coming up with?
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, so there's a few questions and just one comment first. Someone mentioned that their local library has a very, very expensive kind of printer. So we suggest people also go check out.
Absolutely. Our company, our primary source is schools, libraries, and makerspaces. And we sell our printers to those locations all the time.
Cool. So you mentioned the support there that you might need.
The rafting, yes.
Rafting, and a lot of people would like to know, how do you pick that? What angle do you print the model at? Do you have any guidance for that?
Normally, I try to pick to print something to where I've got the largest flat surface so that I don't have to do cleanup on the flat surface. In this particular case, if I were to print this, then if I'm looking at it like this and it's flat on the bed, there would be very little rafting if I printed it this way. Sometimes people like to print things vertically like this as well to get away from rafting. But you can rotate that on that XY axis thing that I was showing you in the slicer. So it's all set up in your slicer, and you can rotate things and put it. But the biggest tip I can give you is try to get the largest flat surface you can. If it's a table, flip the table upside down to where the legs are sticking up in the air.
Mhm.
That way you won't have to try to do the rafting and as much cleanup. Yes, good question.
Okay. So the next two questions are kind of similar. So I'm going to read them both, and then you can
Okay.
answer all three of them. I understand the difference between the resin and filament printers. Is there a standard we should choose for helping us select for either scale or whichever scale? And then the other question, could you please explain what specs would you look at for someone choosing a first printer to do HO projects? Want to do detailing, buildings, like the ones you're showing, all-purpose. I've seen mention on diameter of print head. I've seen different resins being mentioned. What would be better than others?
You're asking me a question that the answer is kind of, how deep is the ocean? Okay, it depends on where you're trying to measure it. So the only thing that I can tell you is that what works for you is the best for you. And if you're really neophyte in this, I would go to a makerspace or a library or something and look at the printer they have. Take your file that you're looking at printing and print it there first, okay? Look at their printer, see what they've got. That's a local thing for you. Obviously, if you need to send a question to me, I'll try to answer it for you. If you want to, or you can do it through the forum here, and I can try to answer that for you as well. But it's kind of the old saying of, it's your railroad, your rules. It's kind of your printing, your rules as to what you're going to be doing. And if you're doing in scale or smaller, I think you're pretty much stuck with doing a liquid resin printer. Mm-hmm. If you're doing HO scale and up, then you've got some options. Somebody asked in the last clinic, how can I print people? Okay. People are the most difficult things there is to print. However, I have printed some people in HO scale on this printer that I'm talking about. Now, this printer, again, is roughly a $3,000 printer. So you're looking at trying to get on up there, and understand that you can print things. And I'm going to wrap this up here because I don't want to get into the next guy's time here, but being cautious of that. But understand that you can print things in everything from plastic to titanium. And you can have a printer that's $300 or $3 million, literally $3 million printers. I had double knee replacement surgery, and when they did my surgery, the doctor sent me to an MRI. They took an MRI scan of my knees. They sent that to the company, who 3D printed my new knee joints on their titanium printer. Okay, so my knees are my knees, and they're specific to my body. That's why I didn't even have to go to rehab. I was going up and down stairs before I left the hospital in 2 days after the knee surgery. It was ridiculous, but they worked for me. All right. So the answer to your question is, depending on what you're doing, you may have to make an investment more than $300. A $300 printer is great for kids' toys, but it's not necessarily good for making something as detailed as a Jeep with an interior in it.
Correct. Plus, for a beginner, you also need to print the little throttle holders.
Yep.
So even if you're an N scale, you don't want to spend all that time layering something in an expensive printer.
That's exactly right. In a lot of things in N scale, you can print on a filament printer and not use up your expensive liquid resin.
Correct.
One of the things that's, like I told you, liquid resin has a shelf life. Once you open a package of liquid resin, you need to be using it up, because it will spoil on you if you're not careful.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I think you got a lot of people fired up on Facebook. So
I'm really apologize for our technical difficulties, guys. We're all learning this. This is my third time on Werby, and I'm really trying to get the cameras and everything. I have a lot of good things here set up for you guys, but maybe we'll get it fine-tuned. And I appreciate you guys having the opportunity. Gordy, thank you for having me back again. We're tickled to death to be able to host the 2023 convention here. I'd invite you to do me 2 favors. Go to cowcatcherdivision.com and link to our YouTube channel. We're having a lot of content there. Also, like us on Facebook and follow us on Facebook. We're trying to get those numbers up so that we can offset our Zoom subscription with people that are following us on YouTube and things like that. So we're going to be broadcasting our division meetings and everything else on Zoom from now on after we've started doing this through the COVID-19 crisis.
Thanks, Mike. There's a really important question that we missed. Andy Ambrose asks, do you know where he can find an M1A1 Abrams?
The tank, I mean, well, other than Army surplus, no. Yes, and they're out there. If you go in and to Thingiverse, a lot of those models are free downloads, and the guys that are military gamers put all these tanks and military vehicles that I've got right there that I showed you. I downloaded for free from the military gamers, and they've got tons and thousands and tens of thousands of military vehicles out there. Go out there, do a search, and you can download the M1A1. I've actually got one on my computer. I haven't printed it yet, but you can download it and print it off, and you're in great shape. So they're out there. You just got to find them.
And Speed, Mike, everyone's about to see how NMRAx works. Okay, what I'd like us to do is to put together a 3D throttle pocket holder with the NMRAx logo on it that people can print.
That's pretty easy to do, quite honestly.
I want to do that, and we'll make that file available to people, and we'll stick it in the comments when we'll stick a link to it in the comments when we put this video up on YouTube.
The problem is, which type of throttle does it fit?
I got a half height.
There you go. There you go.
I'm sure.
Well, see, that doesn't fit my throttles that I'm using. So there you go.
Don't make me say a beer holder. Don't make me do it. Right? I don't care what it is. Let's just have a nice, easy. Let's just have a nice, easy project with NMRAx on it.
Your Honor, I didn't hear that.
All right, guys. It's you can tell it's nearly 10 p.m. in the UK, but it's fine because Gordy's still drinking his coffee. Okay. But thank you, Mike. Thanks, Speed. We're gonna just stick you back onto our wonderful merch slides. Remember, get yourselves over to daylightsales.net and grab yourselves some great NMRAx merch. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back shortly.